Hello class, these are our notes for section 211 in Algebra 1. We are connecting equations to graphs. So this is the second part of this lesson. So for our first situation, it says Mai receives a $40 bus pass. Each school day she spends $2.50 to travel to and from school. Let D be the number of school days since Mai receives a pass, and B the balance or dollar amount remaining on the pass. Write an equation to model the situation. Okay, so I am picturing Mai is excited to go to school. She gets this $40 bus pass, but she's got to use it every day. And every day that she uses it, $2.50 disappears. And it says travel to and from. So I'm going to assume that it's only $2.50 per day that covers getting there and coming home. So our total cost is going to be whatever's left over, or I guess I say it's our balance on this one. So we're going to have B equals. So B is going to equal the balance that she has left. And because she's starting with the $40, I'm going to write 40. And because we're subtracting money off every time we use it, I'm going to write a minus sign. And we know that every day she goes to school, it costs $2.50. So that's going to be 250 times D. So 250 times every day. So we've got our balance. We're starting with the 40. We're subtracting 250 per day. Okay, we're going to go ahead and work this whole one and graph it. And then I think we're going to do our analysis part maybe at the end. So let's go ahead and graph. And to graph it, I really want this to be not in this form. Okay, so to graph it, I want my slope part first. I want my y-intercept part at the end. So I would rearrange it and write B equals negative 250 D plus 40. And I might even take it a step further and say, well, $2.50 is 2 1/2. And if I make that into an improper fraction, 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5 halves. And if you don't believe me that those are equal, you could go back and you could do 5 divided by 2 on a calculator, and it would give you the 250 back. Okay, so those are equivalent. But when I'm working with slopes and I'm counting slopes, this is an easier number to work with. So I'm going to write B is equal to negative 5 halves D plus 40. All right, and then we're going to erase all this stuff over here that we're not going to need right now. And I think I need a much bigger eraser to be able to do all of that. It's going to just be in our way later. All right, so let's see what's going on here. I need to go ahead and label my axes. And I know from doing this problem earlier that I want my y-axis to go by 5. So this is going to be 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Okay, and that's our y-intercept is 40, right? So let's go ahead and mark that. That's our y-intercept. So that means I can make a point at 40 on my y-axis. So that's 0, 40 would be a point on that line. And I know that the line's going down, right, because she keeps using it. So this side is going to be my money, my balance. Let's just write B. We don't have a lot of space here. And then my other axis is going to be the D for days. I have a little more room here, but I'm going to write a D. And I'm going to count these by 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Okay, so now it's a little bit tricky, as normally we would think with our slope about counting down 5 squares and over 2. But my scale is wonky, right? So when I'm counting down 5 squares, really I'm counting down 5, which would be right to here, that's 35. And then when I go over 2, that's also really just 1 square, because my squares are worth 5 in the y direction and 2 in the x direction. So it's really going to be like down 1 square over 1 square, but I'm really going down 5 units and over 2 units. And I can make a bunch of points on my line, and let's go ahead and connect them. It's kind of messy there. And so all the way over here at the bottom, I've got, let's see, I've got 16 for x and 0 for y. So that would be like after 16 days. she has no money, right? So that's what's going on there. She has no money left. So I feel like that's an important point. But we got all these points across the way too, right? Like this point would be 2, 4, 6, 8, and 20. So after 8 days, she's got $20 left. It's important to note that in between like the 8 and the 10, I would really have a point here as well. Like I don't have like an 8.37 point, but I would have a 9 comma something, right? I would have a 9 comma $17.50 left. So there are going to be a few extra points on here that we're not seeing with the dots that we drew. So if I'm going to analyze this graph, so let's go ahead and move this up, and I'm going to just analyze really quick. So if I'm going to analyze this graph, I think important points are that she starts with $40. And then if we think about what our slope means, every time D, or the days, increases by 1, her balance, B, and it drops by $2.50. So that's really what that slope means. So this is really my y-intercept part of it, that I'm starting at the $40, and my slope part of it is just what's happening every time I do something. And it's really easy to see from the graph. It's easy to see from the equation what the slope and the y-intercept part mean. So the second graph we're going to look at is not going to have an easily recognizable slope and y-intercept. So we're going to do some rearranging, and we'll have to do a little bit more work with it. So the second one says a student club, so situation 2, a student club is raising money by selling popcorn and iced tea. The club is charging $3 per bag of popcorn and $1.50 per cup of iced tea, and plans to make $60. So I think these problems are interesting because no club I know is like, we only want to make $60 exactly, right? They're always after making as much money as they can. So I think it's kind of funny. So we've got the club is making some money per bag of popcorn, and the club is making some money per cup of tea, and all together we want it to equal 60. So let's let P be the popcorn. So if we're making $3 per bag of popcorn, that means we're going to be making 3P money from popcorn. So if I made 4 bags of popcorn, it'd be 3 times 4. If I made 2 bags of popcorn, it'd be 3 times 2. So we're multiplying the cost times how many there are, and that's going to give us our total for popcorn. And then I'm going to write down a plus sign because we're totaling that up with our T. Altogether, we're going to make $60, and the T is $1.50 per cup. So that would be $1.50 times, and they're saying T for the cups here, for cups of tea. So that's going to be T. And I try to make my T's look really different from my plus signs, and then all together $60. So this one we want to graph right away. And because this is in that standard form, so I remember talking about standard form the other day, it's going to be easier to look at our x-intercept and our y-intercept. So to find, and really in this case, it's a p-intercept and a t-intercept, right? So if we're looking for our p-intercept, we would let t equal 0. So if t equals 0, that means that 150t, all of that's going to be gone from my equation. It is zeroed out. 150 times 0 is 0. All I have left is 3p equals 60. And I could solve that, and I would get p equals 20. So if I have 20 bags of popcorn, I would have 0 cups of tea. So that's going to be 20 comma 0. So let's write now what I'm telling you is that we're going to make P be our x-axis. This is going to be our p-axis for bags of popcorn, and this is going to be our t-axis for cups of tea. I almost wish we just used x and y. I would have simplified this a little bit. Okay, so now to find my t-intercept. T, why is this not writing? T-intercept. We are going to let p equal 0. So that means 3p is now zeroed out. 3 times 0 is 0. All we have is 150t equals 60. And then I'd have to divide both sides by 150. And this is where I'd probably want to use a calculator. We wouldn't give you such awful numbers on a test or quiz. And we do get 40. I do like the real life part of this though. So except again, like the club's going to make as much money as they can make. So this is going to be 0 for P and 40 for T. So 0, 40. So one way to graph in standard form, kind of the way it's set up for, right, is we just make points for 20, 0, and 0, 40. So we're going to use the same scale we used before, which I think is kind of cool. It's easy when we're graphing these. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, and then we're going to count by fives again here. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Okay, and there's our 40. And then I'm going to do my graph, my actual graph this time in a different color. All right, so we have the 0, 40 we can graph, and we have the 20, 0 we can graph. And so then the way we can do this is we can just connect. And I think the drawback on this standard form, right, is I don't have any points along the way that I know for a factor on the graph. I only have those two endpoints on those axes. And I'm saying endpoints in this case because we can't get into the negatives, right? Like this is strictly a first quadrant kind of graph. So I think it made sense on the first one, how the graph was falling from left to right because we were spending something each day, but this one might be a surprise to you. But let's think about how we want to make $60 total. And so as we sell more bags of popcorn, there'd be less tea and vice versa, right? So like if I sell the 40 of the tea, then I'm not selling any popcorn. But then as I increase the amount of tea that I am selling, it means I'm selling less popcorn to get exactly $60. So to analyze this graph a little bit, it's kind of hard to do an analysis like we did on the first one. So what we want to do is we want to take our equation and we're going to do a little bit of rearranging here. So I've got the equation written down on paper so that I can just copy it down. You can see your whole paper at once, but I can't see that. So 3p plus 150t is equal to 60. And then I am going to solve this for my y, which is my t. Okay, so I want to solve for the y-axis. All right, so I need to move the p part to the other side, subtract 3p on both sides. So $1.50 t equals negative 3p plus 60. Remember, always trying to put that slope part first and then the y-intercept part. And then we'd have to divide everything by $1.50. All right, and then let's see. I need to divide this out, and this is where, actually I don't think I need a calculator because 1.5 goes, it would be, there's two of them in 3. So this is going to be a negative 2p, and I've already divided 60 by 1.5, and that's 40. Okay, so if I'm going to analyze this one, I would say, so the 40 is like that t-intercept, right? So if no popcorn, if no p is sold, we need to sell 40 cups of tea, 40 tea, and I'm just writing this really short because I'm running out of space here. For each additional tea, or no, wait a minute, for each additional p sold, right? Because we're looking at going to the right in this case is going in that p direction. So for each additional p or popcorn sold, we can sell 2 less tea. And again, this one's a little bit strange because it's assuming that we want to make exactly $60 and not more than that. So for each additional popcorn that we sell, because our slope is a negative 2 here, we can sell 2 less teas. So that's what that slope is meaning in this case. All right, so this is kind of a deep dive into slope and y-intercept and what they mean. As always, if you have any questions, make sure to get help in class.